Welcome back to MD-VOD, where we're talking about multiple sclerosis. And to better understand any disease, it's helpful to hear what it's actually like to live with it. Today we're joined by special guest, Mr. Montel Williams.
Thanks for my family.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you very, very much for joining us. You know, Montel, you've accomplished more than most people in their lifetime. You're an author, you're an amazing television host. You do great things about wellness today that I love, and you were in the military and did incredible things.
Thank you.
What do you attribute all of your healthful success to?
No ifs, ands, or buts. It's absolutely changing and living by what I've been preaching rather than just preaching it. You know, people have heard me for the last 10 years of my life talking about the fact of how important exercise, diet, making sure that if you're on medication, you take your medication, you take it and comply the way the doctor wrote it. You've heard me talk about that, and I have tried to probably up until about 4 years ago, did this really 65%. 70%, you know, you try to make it happen, and a couple days a week you make it work, and then the next couple days, well, then a couple days you make it work. It wasn't until I actually flipped the switch and said, no, I mean, I got to stop with the goofing around. I got to really pay attention to this, because unless I do so, any thought of impacting the speed by which this illness is ravaging my body, I could throw out the window. If I pay attention and recognize that there are things that we can do. I can't cure MS, but there are things that I can do to impact how I feel every day. You got to get busy with it. And so the second I realized that I was not going to, one, live down to other people's expectations. I say live down to them because they're the ones who were telling me that just because I have MS, I'm going to degrade this way or that way. Number two, when I also realized that I can live up to my own, which means, yeah, I can't go nuts, but if I want to push myself a little bit, let's push a little bit in the direction of living as healthy as I can. That's what's making a difference.
Awesome advice. And we talk about this all the time. We talk about how important diet and exercise are in any disease, in the prevention and the treatment and maintenance of symptoms. And what specifically do you recommend in terms of diet that might help you with multiple sclerosis?
Here's what I'm starting to figure out. And again, I'm not a doctor. You know, I can't hang a plank. And I want to make sure that anything I say that somebody backs this up by talking to your doctor or you're talking to your health provider. But I will tell you, I've kind of learned a few things in the last now 8 years. One, inflammation. We know that that's the nemesis for probably 70 to 80% of the diseases that we all suffer from, especially the chronic ones. Inflammation. There are things that God gave us, that nature gave us. We can forget all the medicine, the this, the that, the that. Stop the stupid. Go to the grocery store, buy what came up out of the ground. Fruits, vegetables. Everybody, the National Institute of Health, the FDA, everybody has written a paper on it in the last 10 years. The First Lady talks about it. It's the fact that fruits and vegetables are nature's anti-inflammatories. Montel Williams has MS. Biggest nemesis of MS? Inflammation. I get it. I'm a real quick study, so that means if I can get some fruits and vegetables, I can reduce my inflammation. I just happen to do it on hyperdrive. So what I've done is, I realized way back when I first started in this regimen, I couldn't eat as many pieces of fruit and vegetables every day that I would need to consume to really do what I want to do, and that's try to impact my illness. When I say couldn't eat as many, I need to eat 7, 8 pieces of fruit, 5, 6 cups of vegetables. Nobody, look, try that for 3 days, you're chomping, your jaw gets sore, you look at people like this, Montel's crazy. So what I realized, if I could blend it or emulsify it, put it in some sort of a smoothie, I can be pumping this in all day. And that's exactly what I do. So every single day, I consume no less than 60 ounces of fruits and vegetables emulsified in coconut water. I specifically use coconut water because it's one of the most hydrating liquids on the planet. I pick particular fruits because I'm looking for certain things and certain reasons to get anti-inflammatory response, things like watermelon, things like pineapple, things like blueberries, antioxidants. I'm using a banana because I also need to sustain myself with the workouts I have to do, and I pile up the green. I'm telling you, spinach, kale, anything. I don't use broccoli because it causes a little digestive distress, but, you know what I'm saying? But I use everything green. Put it in that blender, hit it on high speed, let that grind up for a while, and pump in a pitcher 3 times a day. every day.
That's a great point. Antioxidants, and again, just back to inflammation. Inflammation is really the problem with a lot of diseases. I'm a cardiologist. I can tell you that inflammation directly impacts heart disease, and it certainly impacts MS. And just to give you a picture of what inflammation is, if you took a piece of sandpaper and rubbed it on your leg, you would see how hot and swollen and itchy and inflamed it would get. That's what we're talking about. Inflammation is really the problem in many diseases, whether it's arthritis or MS or even heart disease. And so antioxidants are really important in terms of preventing and treating many diseases. And fruits and vegetables, as you've heard from someone that's doing incredibly well with an inflammatory disease, Montel Williams. So
you nailed it when you were talking about the fact that rubbing, that feeling right there, all that exacerbation is really what's going on in my nerve endings. So yeah, I'm trying to reduce that. And the more I can reduce that means that the signal from my brain may get through. Now, I have issues. I mean, a lot of people think, because they see me on television and I get to hide it very well, that Montel, oh, he must be doing great. Look, I have left leg weakness. I've got a left hip flexor that doesn't respond the right way. Every now and then as I'm walking, I may have a nerve that my brain will send a signal and my leg will go in a direction it's not supposed to go in, just by itself. I have a little bit of left shoulder weakness. I had for 6 years in a row some of the most excruciating neuropathic pain in my shins and my feet and my lower extremities. And it wasn't until about 2 years ago that started really subsiding. And now I think part of it has to do with a couple reasons. We know that neuropathic pain over time, the brain tries to figure out a way to deal with it or I'd probably go crazy. So I'm dealing with it a little bit better. But I also believe that all of the things that I'm doing, from the exercise, from the eating the fruits and vegetables, to a lot of things I'm also doing in the supplement world, because there's a lot of supplements out there that we haven't done the right amount of research on that we know can impact us. Now, I'm a guinea pig in myself. I'm involved in a study from the University of Wisconsin. I'm involved in a study with out of really the University of San Diego. I've been involved in multiple projects to impact my health, and that's maybe what the message of this whole interview should be. We can't lay around waiting to live down to other people's expectations. If you reach out, 5 years ago, there was an excuse because the information wasn't there. Nowadays, it's online. You just type in whatever your problem is. I type in MS and say, start clicking away at problem. You'll start getting information. For us to be as smart as, I can never be as smart as you, sir, as a doctor. But what I can be is as filled with knowledge. I need you to help me interpret it. So I need to go off to see a doctor and say, look, I heard about this. And you can say, no, Montel, doesn't work. Okay, I'll run away. Come back next week. I heard about this. You go, well, that's not a bad idea. Get a little bit more fruits and vegetables in it. Okay, I'm gonna do that. Boom. Come away with another bad one. That's what people should be trying to do. Be proactive about your life, because I gotta tell you something. This year, we're gonna hear more garbage from the left, the right, Obamacare, Romneycare. I don't care about those people because I don't think they know what they're talking about. We're so busy worried about sick care in America. We should get busy worrying about health care. And if we get busy worrying about health care, we will start informing people, giving them the knowledge so that they can impact their individual healthcare footprint, lower the cost, which means it lowers the cost for all of us, and then we don't have to worry about things like raising taxes. I mean, I can go on. Don't get me started. You got me started.
One of the points
you got me started.
One of the points that you made that we love at MDVOD is we talk about it all the time, and Montel just beautifully said it without any encouragement. He says, look, knowledge is power, and the more knowledgeable you are, the healthier you will be. And this is, living proof of that. Talking about things that we can do to prevent the disease, prevent the complications, and also live with it in a very healthful way. Back to something you mentioned earlier, because I think it's important, at least I want to know, to tell patients with MS, what exercise regimen do you use and do you think is the most helpful for living with MS?
I believe every MS patient out there, you have to, again, let's talk to your doctor first. Let's find out where you are. I don't care if you never worked out in your entire life. You can start down the path to exercising just by taking little steps at a time. First thing you can do, there's not a doctor out there that's a neurologist who will tell you not to walk. Get your butt up off the couch, walk out the front door, walk down to the mailbox, walk back, sit down. Tomorrow, get up, walk past the mailbox 3 steps, walk back, walk to the mailbox, walk back. You know what I'm saying? We got to get started moving, that's first. I suffer from, I'm telling you, there are days and were days where it was every day. There are days I can't put my feet on the floor. When I wake up in the morning, my feet are just, it's not pins and needles, my friend. I got knives shooting up to the bottom of my heel. I could stumble myself into the bathroom. I try to get into the bathroom, and then I try to get my feet up off the floor. I sit in the living room for a little bit. I try to rub them. That doesn't work. And then when I do, I swear to you, I grab some chlorophyll. I do some things with supplements. So I grab a little chlorophyll. I grab something else out of the refrigerator. I put my gym clothes on. I go down in my building. There's an elliptical, and I get on that elliptical. And what that does to me, and people with MS will understand what I'm saying, I get that egg cracking shell thing going. Once it cracks, then all of a sudden it starts to feel okay. It feels a little bit better. 2 minutes in, feels better. 4 years ago, I could do 2 minutes on an elliptical. I can do an hour on an elliptical now.
Wow.
A year and a half ago, I couldn't do a treadmill at more than a 1.1 flat. I'm doing a treadmill now at a 3.2 on a 6 incline, and I can do an 8 incline. This is now after a year and a half. I am not pushing, but what I'm doing is I'm not taking no. I'm not accepting it. I'm not going to. If I can do some things, I talked to my doctor. Look, people with MS, the biggest thing that we fear is that the second you start working out, you get a little warmer. Maybe if you have, like I do, you have vision issues. So your vision starts to get a little blurry. Okay, you start to tingle a little bit. We all quit because doctors say, so you don't want to turn it into an exacerbation. Stop the silly. As soon as you stop working out, that, for me, it eases and goes back away. So it comes up when I'm working out. Well, guess what? The benefits I get from that hour of working out outweigh that 5 to 10 minutes in the middle of that extra routine that hurts. So, and then guess what? I feel better throughout the day. So I think aerobic training is key. When you start to feel weakness, you don't need to use weights, but you need to use some resistance to train in those areas that you have weakness. I am constantly doing things to manipulate to help move my hip flexors. I have to. 4 years ago, well, let's see, even with MS, up until about 4 years ago, I was able to snowboard every single winter. The pain in my feet got so bad for about a year and a half, and my hips started not responding the way I wanted. I just got afraid. I couldn't go back out on that mountain. So for the last 3 years, I didn't go back out. I went 2 years ago for 2 days. I hurt bad, my feet hurt. I was like, it looks like it's something I'm gonna have to quit. Talked to a couple doctors. They said, yeah, they might have seen your best days with snowboarding. I was about ready to give up. I started working with a couple trainers and doing a couple of other things. I've got this whole medical routine that I'm doing out of the University of Wisconsin. I started doing a little bit different training, and my hip started responding differently. This is about 2 years ago, about a year and a half ago. So as I made it respond this last year, somebody said, hey, you want to try to go snowboarding for a day or two? And I went, yeah, let me do it. So I went, and guess what? It's up online right now. I went out and I was able to do it. So at the end of this month, we're sitting here, this is May, the end of June, I'm going to Alaska, and I'm going to do a full week of heliboarding up backcountry in Alaska. Why? Because I'm going to pick up, and I'm going to shoot this so I can prove to people, even when you think you should quit, you don't have to.
Yeah, that's great. Great advice. So get up and move,
Yes.
do aerobic exercise.
Light resistance training.
Light resistance training.
And that can be your own body resistance. You know what I mean? You can use a chair. This chair is a workout device right here. I can do squats on this chair, assisted squats on this chair. I can turn this chair around and, use it to do just some mild little push-ups on it, starting off slowly. And for anybody who is, if you feel like you've had some issues with your mobility, you might want to break yourself, hire a trainer. There's a lot of kids out here right now that don't have jobs. $20 an hour for some kid who's the captain of the high school football team to run you through some stretches once a week. That's not bad. Kids can use a little extra money.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So, if you need to work with a trainer, get yourself moving. A little resistance will help you strengthen those muscles around the area that you have weakness, which will help you counterbalance some of your weakness. So I think aerobic, resistance, and then dietary changes, and the one we said earlier, listen, mate, I take one drug, and I'll talk about it. I don't like to say it by name because then everybody thinks that I'm gonna take Montel's drug and I'll be no. Your doctor will tell you which drug to take, but the one I take, you have to inject every day. I've been on this drug now for 12 years. I'm one of the longest running patients on this drug who has missed only 14 shots in 12 years. Every day. I take it within 2 hours of itself, every day. If I'm on the East Coast, I try to shoot for 7 o'clock at night. So when I'm over here, I try to get it between 3 and 4. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to make sure that I get that shot taken every single night around the exact same time, no matter where I am in the world.
Wow.
And I've been doing this now for 12 years. That's a little anal.
That's incredible advice, though, because one of the most important things in terms of preventing, recurrence and MS symptoms from coming back is compliance with your medications. This is such important information.
Beat them over the head. It's not just
no
MS.
idea.
It's everybody. We have the least compliant people in America. You go to the drugstore, buy a drug for $150, use 3 of them and leave it on the shelf, and wonder why you're still sick. I don't.
Right.
I want to
take
smack
your meds.
people with this. You have to take your meds,
You gotta
yes, sir. I'm
take your
sorry.
meds. You got to take your meds. I appreciate that, and you got to eat
It's
right,
hyper.
and you got to exercise.
You have to.
And one other thing I'll ask you is, are there any things that you should avoid in terms of dietary supplements or anything you're eating in your diet, and what exercises might we avoid if we have MS?
We want to make sure that you don't. There's this threshold with MS because of our body temperatures, and especially if you have any kind of temperature aversions or issues with regulating your body temperature. I had for quite a long period of time. I couldn't go out, and a lot of heat above 90 degrees can really start to weaken me very quickly. So you have to pay attention to how rapidly your body heats up. So I would say, can you be a marathoner? Yes. Can you be a triathlete? Yes. But as you're training, if you start to notice that, let's say, you push yourself to a point where you start not just getting tingling, but you're getting numbness and there's something going wrong, I'd back off to your doctor. Don't push yourself to that point of failure, because, what I'm going to show people over the course of the next year, and I'm really on a mission, Doc, I'm telling you, I want people to understand that, again, 10 years ago, a doctor told me I would be in a wheelchair in 4 years. Ha ha. Okay? So he was wrong.
No
One.
wheels.
No wheels. 2, I told myself 2 years ago, you can't. Guess what? I can now. And I'm going to continue to until I don't want to, not until I can't. So what I'm really trying to do right now is to make sure that this journey between now and the time that I leave this place will be on my terms. And yeah, I have MS. It's going to continue to just come at me, and I'm going to continue to do everything I can. I'm going to put up a good fight. And like I said, if at the end of the day this weakens me to a point where I need assistance, I'll still exercise through my assistance. If this gets to a point where, whatever it is, I will then have had an unbelievably good life because I lived every day to the fullest and tried to make sure I took advantage of all the knowledge I have to live as well as I can.
Wow. Incredible advice from an incredible person. Know about your disease, take your medications, eat right, and exercise. I mean, if that's not applicable to every disease known to man and woman, I don't know. This was incredible information. I want to thank you so much
Thanks for having me.
For joining us.
No, thanks for spreading the word.
This
too.
was outstanding, Montel. Thank you so much for joining us here on MD-VOD to discuss multiple sclerosis. Montel is a living example of how combining diet, exercise, and stress reduction with a thirst for knowledge about your disease is so powerful in healing. Montel showed us what we should all try to be like with or without MS. We hope this information helps those of you living with MS lead healthier, happier, and more productive lives. Join us next time here on MD-VOD, Your Health, live and on demand.